Okay, hi everyone. Welcome. So this is going to be the way we're going to run this meeting. It's just the slides are so high level, right? Because we don't want to dwell because we got a lot of slides, but we're going to have the presentation online. So you can go into any of the details of this if you want, and always, email info@Historic Uptown. It's all on the web. And then that way we're gonna go through this so you guys can listen to Richard and then listen to Tim, okay? Any food. So let's see here. This guy, okay, if I could start. Okay, so kick off. I'm going to introduce the board. And so I'm the president, and Diane, you don't see her picture because I don't want her to block the slides, but Diane's not in town. She's our vice president. And then we have Tam, who's standing up in back. She's on our board. And we have Mariah, and she's our master web person. If you guys have seen our website, and you should be saying ooh and ah right now and thanking her. She's amazing. And so that is pretty much our board. And we also had, and Monica's not here. Okay, so I want to introduce Monica. And then Christy Chirby is not renewing her board activities. She's like super busy. So let me give you a real quick rundown of the neighborhood. The northern boundaries is Cashler-Poudre, south is Bijou, east is the Wasatch, the east side of Wasatch, and west is Monument Valley Park. And so that's about around 600 properties. And, our unique characteristics is just a significant presence in the National Register of Historic Places. And I'll show you a picture of that soon. And then, the parks, Monument Valley Park, Boulder Crescent Park, and, a mutual community of residents and businesses. And we really value the interactions that we have. It's a challenge at times, but in general, we really value that interaction. And then all the amenities. And, every time I rent a place down, my basement, and it's like, yeah, there's this every 10 minutes, you can go all the way down to Tejon. It's that kind of thing that I think just really makes this neighborhood great. And we care about identifying, preserving our historic homes and businesses, and preserving the streetscape and our medians specifically. And we had a tree planting the year before last, and improving safety and living conditions and making sure that this area works for all of us. And so it's important for us, especially as homeowners, that we just work together to make sure that this neighborhood is a wonderful place to be. And then we have a website. And so total properties, 593. Of the properties, about 30% of them are non-residential, about 70% of them are residential in this area. And of the residential properties, about 60% of them are renters, and about 39 are owner occupied. And so that's kind of the stats of this neighborhood. And 48% single family, with the majority of the properties being multifamily properties in this neighborhood. And we have 80% of our buildings are over 50 years, and 56% are over 100 years. So we're very historic, which is why this character is really important to us. And we have a relatively high density of 25 dwelling units per acre, when the city averages at around 6 or something, 5 or 6. So it gives you an idea that we have a lot of density here with all of the apartment complexes. And I think that's what, makes us, I really consider us the missing middle. We have a good combination of residences, commercial, and I think that's what makes this neighborhood just wonderful to live in. And the treasurer's update, we're a 501c3. We have an EIN number. It's all on our website, which is great. And our expenses, we don't have many, so WordPress for our server, Google Drive, United States Postal Service. I didn't want to go into a lot of detail of our expenses, but our donations, we have underline, and we have, a couple of people that really help in the donations. And we have a carryover, so our donations are about $1,500, and so our current bank account is $900. And you want me to handle the slides, or you got it? So okay, is the communications director, and she runs our website and all of our emails, newsletters, everything.
Hey, Diane. Good to see you. Oh my goodness. So we had lots of updates this year. We got the Weber Wasatch Historic District page up where you can explore lots of properties in that district. Any of these QR codes, please feel free to scan, and they will take you directly to these pages. We had 15 board updates and initiatives. The board has been extremely busy with trying to get involved with the many things the city wants to do to this neighborhood and nearby. So I'm sure Cheryl will cover that in a moment. We've added 26 historical properties, mostly in the Weber Wasatch Historic District. So you could go on, you can search an address, and you'll find amazing research done by Tim, myself, and Cheryl on the properties within our neighborhood. Lots of really cool stories in there. We have hosted 3 events, which Cheryl will go into later. And we have the Weber Wasatch Historic District South Walking Tour. Tim Scanlon did a wonderful job putting that together. He even made a book and handed it out to attendees. It's been very popular, and you can do a self-guided tour on the website. For our website stats, we are up in traffic. We are up in direct hits and organic searches, and our top 3 pages are listed here. Our Facebook has a large reach. We have reached almost 7,000 individuals this year, just on Facebook alone. We are getting a 100% organic traffic, which is amazing to have this from just natural habits online. With our Instagram, it's not as popular. I would guess that's due to our audience, but we are getting 207 views of our content this year from organic traffic. MailChimp is extremely popular. Our newsletter gets more and more signups every day. When I made this slide, we had 308 new subscribers this year. That is now up to 310. Not sure how we got 2 more between yesterday and today. We have almost a 60% open rate and an 8% click rate. All right. Okay, thank you.
I mean, how lucky can we be? So we have her, and she's a volunteer. Okay, I'm just saying. Okay, so quick just overview of the historic preservation. So everything in red is the National Registered homes and districts. This is the Weber Wasatch District. And can you see the arrow or no? You can't see the arrow. Okay, so the yellow are eligible National Register. So we have a number of properties that are eligible. They just have not been converted over. It's a very expensive and time-consuming process. But the one that I wanted to specifically mention is the one highlighted in yellow over in the upper left-hand corner. We're calling that the Parkside District. We're working with planning right now and creating a historic preservation overlay in this district. And so we don't have 100% of the properties, but we do have maybe 60% of the properties that are moving forward. We've already gone through multiple processes. So that I just kind of wanted to give you an idea. We have a lot of historic resources in this neighborhood because this neighborhood is a part of the original township of Colorado Springs, which is why, we've got so many. And this is an eye chart. Like I said, you can come and look at this at any time, but I just wanted to mention the phases. We have phase 1, phase 2. So phase 1, we gathered data, that was 2022. Phase 2, we did draft history of the area. We, meaning Tim, did a lot of the work. Draft history of the area. Phase 3, 23, 24. We met with the owners and got signatures for the properties. We have 26 total properties in the district, and 26. And of the owners, we have 17, I believe.
15 owners.
15 owners, 17 properties.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then phase 4, February, March of 2024, we notified the city, went to the Historic Preservation Board, talked to a couple of city council representatives, and went through pre-application meeting. Phase 5, we started the process, was June, September of last year, 2024. And these are the stats of the district. There are 28 properties. 2 properties were already designated. We didn't include them. 17, we have owner signatures. We're only moving forward with the 17 properties that have owner signatures. And the submittal happened. And if you live anywhere near here, you've gotten a lot of green cards. And I'm going to tell you, you're going to get more.
What?
Because just saying, a rezone is insanity. And so we initiated the process, 7 entry points to Parkside District. And we're now into 2025. We've already gone through a neighborhood meeting. We've done one meeting with the Historic Preservation Board. And the way, when you work with Historic Preservation Overlay, the Historic Preservation Board, you have to get past them, or you go nowhere else. And then once you get past the board, then it goes to commission, it goes to city council, and then we finally, finish. But the biggest milestone we have right now is the HPB. If we can't get past them, we don't move forward. Tim, do you have anything you'd like to add to this wondrous process, or?
We'll go forward. You're in test of what you've done.
So okay. So we had a huge skate fest that was just a total blast. We had the skate fest with Colorado College. It was like almost all funded by Underline. We had free food. If you notice, we had axe throwing that went over interestingly to CC because I did not quite tell them. But they got past it, and so we had ice skating. The picture on the far left-hand side is the president of CC, and she just had a blast. And a lot of CC people attended this in addition to the neighborhood. And we also opened it up to everybody who wanted to come. We opened it up to Onan, to Mitchell's Run. We didn't reach out to Lowell, but next, if we do this again, and there's most likely we'll just reach it out. We asked Mill Street, we just said, come on over, free food. And it was just a blast. And so me, Mariah, communications director, Diane, vice president, Jordan Radke was at a CC director, and she was just amazing because it was a lot of logistics to get this thing going. And getting the ice skating rink set up, it was a lot. And then James Wade, he's wonderful. Underline, they funded this big time with a lot of money. I like that. Okay. Okay. Traffic study. So we've had 3 meetings with traffic engineering, and we wanted them to focus on the major corridors. North-south were important to us. And so we had them focus on Cascade, Nevada, Weber, and Wasatch. And they did an entire study. And the bottom line is they have some things that we can do on Wasatch, Nevada. And they've already, in the green, they've already done some of the lightweight stuff, installed back plates, so that the sun doesn't reflect and you can't see the signs and the stop signs. But we're working more closely. I don't know if anybody wants to throw out their opinion on bike lanes on Wasatch. Okay. Nay? Does everybody like it? Okay. Because we're pushing it. And the reason why, I don't know what we're going to get, because it's always so politically tough. I get it. But Wasatch doesn't have as much traffic as it needs to require 4 lanes. And since we, Palmer and everything around it, and everybody knows, well, not everybody, but traffic engineering knows that if you have bike lanes, it slows things down because you got to put them on 1 lane. And we're all happy about that. So, but we still have to move forward. Nevada has a lot of broadside crashes, especially around Willamette. Willamette's a little dangerous for sure. Out of Historic Uptown, that's a dicey road. And it's dicey on Wasatch, it's dicey on Tejon, and it's also not as dicey on Cascade. I know you live on Wasatch, and he's like emailing me, "That's the crash in my corner." I'm like, "Oh my gosh." Okay, so that's where we are on the traffic study. We're pursuing it, moving forward. Wanted to focus on Nevada with Nevada. Todd Frisbee is the person who will work. I keep going the wrong direction. Street signs. Okay, good news on the street sign. The city is going to, traffic engineering is going to fund like about 8 to 10 of them, right? And then, and these are prototypes, and I didn't bring the prototype, but for the big intersections, they're going to be 8 foot tall. So it gives you an idea of their presence. And for the smaller intersections, they're somewhere around, I want to say 5 foot. But we wanted 2 kinds, one just for the neighborhood intersections, and then the others to call out our historic districts. And so the historic district one you'll see is double height as opposed to the single height one for just the normal intersections where there are no historic districts. We're playing around with the horse. Does everybody know on the horse? Yes? Does everybody like the horse there? Yeah. Perfect. Okay. We got to hire a graphics artist. You know, we tried to do it for free, but nobody stepped forward. So now we're going to have to put out money. But we're going to get that. And so we're going to first do an initial rollout, a few, tell the neighborhood, drive by, tell us what you think. If it's good, we're going to go for phase 2. And then after that, if you want one like on your street, like I want one on my street, Dale, then you're going to have to either fundraise or pay for it yourself. And we're talking somewhere around $100. City will install them for free. Okay, so that's where we are on that. Okay, now this is an eye chart, don't freak out. But okay, so what we're doing is we have a master plan. We're starting master plan activities there. The downtown partnership is working on a master plan for the downtown area. And we need to come forth with the master plan for our specific neighborhood, because it's going to get integrated into their master plan. Because if you don't know, you know now that there are people that actually pay a tax to the downtown partnership, not everybody, but there is a tax that this neighborhood pays. And so they have to kind of represent us in their master plan. And so what this thing is saying that we've done a lot of work. The summary of this is we've done a lot of work to start writing the master plan. And we've engaged with multiple stakeholders, the city, transportation, because this is a big corridor. And if you haven't heard, Weber is one that they want to do a BRT through. I mean, you know, this is where all the happening stuff is. And so, huh?
What's that?
Bus rapid transit. Yeah. And so there are things that we have that, you know, is going to require a lot of discussion. And we want to have a master plan forward to talk about how we want this neighborhood to grow moving forward. And so this is the process. Diane, our vice president, is in charge of this. But this is just to let you know what we are, what's going to be in it. And then you guys watch your newsletters, because, you know, more information is going to come forth on this. And also note that anything you see here, if you're like, gosh, I want to be involved with that, you can either A, join the board, B, join the board, C, join the board. Because you need help. And if you really don't want to join the board, come talk to us, and you can definitely become a participant in this. Yeah, that's what's doing all. Yeah, but no, that's what I'm saying. If you don't want to join the board, tell me what you want to do, and we would just include you because you're going to know so much more to be in these meetings than to just see an overview slide. We are a member of a group of neighborhoods called Historic Neighborhood Partnership. This neighborhood has quite a few, maybe a dozen, maybe more. Onan, Historic Uptown, MSRNA, Pleasant Valley, Skyway. These are all historic neighborhoods, and they have unique challenges. Like, we don't have covenances, we don't have anything like that, and so we really have to work with each other and with the city, to deal with the changes that we experience. And so the HNP just this last year worked on historic preservation. They're working on the city is working on a citywide survey plan and they worked with the partnership. So the partnership's a step higher and includes a lot more neighborhoods. And they support individual neighborhoods, and they're actively involved right now with the ADU zoning that's happening right now. If you haven't heard, the state has passed an ADU law where all properties, including single families, can have an ADU. And so the Historic Neighborhood Partnership is working with what that looks like. And they're going to have a zoning ordinance update. And so we're kind of monitoring state legislation, monitoring what's going on with the city, communicating with neighborhoods, participating as needed if, we want to help direct the changes. Planned COS update is next, and we're going to be actively involved with that as well. At least the update of it. And here are the key goals for 2025. We're going to move forward with this HPO, the picture that I showed you, historic. So we're going to move forward with that. We anticipate getting to completion this year. And there's also an historic preservation overlay ordinance update that we will be participating in as well. And we're going to work with traffic engineering, get the street signs going. That's a big goal of mine this year, the street signs. I want to get those street signs up. And addressing traffic safety is something we all, because they want it to be walkable, they want to be safe. And that's what, we all want the same. And Visit COS came and said, hey, we're going to focus on a few neighborhoods. You want to be a part of it? And we're like, yeah, just send us in. So, or maybe Diane asked to be a part of it. Well, whatever, we're part of it now. Walking tours, things like that, focusing on some of the neighborhoods of Colorado Springs. And, we're always going to be advocating for the neighborhood. And Tim has already written the first Weber Wasatch walking tour, and that's further south. And we're going to have 5 total walking tours, and we're marching up north all the way to Old North End. And this walking tour, we had one in this neighborhood the end of last year. And then Tim did another one for Mitchell's Run, because we kind of have this overlap. We both seem to be very fond of this historic district. So let's just say that we both kind of feel ownership for the Weber Wasatch Historic District. So he's also doing tours for Mitchell's Run as well. But, it's all good because we all get along really well. And this is the question I'm going to ask you. Is there anything else you want us to focus on? Any areas? Or are you good with what's up there? Or are you afraid to say something because then you'll own it? Okay. Oh, yes.
Not any other area of focus, but I wanted to say I do these tours as a matter of course, and if any group or group of friends or anybody that wants it, just contact Cheryl and we'll set up a tour.
Oh, I'm telling you, they're very popular. People love them. The stories are pretty fun.
And it's free.
It's always free. Yeah, I mean,
You did one last weekend, right?
yes.
Yeah.
That was for Mitchell's, yeah. And it's free because what we really want is we really want people to engage. We really want people to engage in the history of this area. And you're not going to do it if you put barriers. And so we don't want barriers. We just want people to enjoy this, okay, board election. Okay, don't sweat, you guys, okay? And so we're going to go through this pretty quickly. I worked really hard at trying to find a new president and was not successful. So if anybody wants to stand up and be president, feel free to stand. I nominate Cheryl. That's what I heard as well. All who does not want me to be president, raise your hand. Okay, I'm president. Okay, vice president. Is there anybody interested in vice presidents? Currently, the position is held by Diane. We can nominate Diane again. She does. I assume you accept the nomination? She's
Sure.
like, anyone who does not want Diane? And you know, keep working and it's a lot of work and I get it, but no matter what anybody wants these positions, we will never like abandon. We'll help, you know. So it's not like you're on your own. We're gonna go hit Hawaii or something, you know. Oh, but that would be nice. But you know, we're always gonna be here to help. And the secretary,
I'll sign up for it.
okay, yeah. Any nays on Mariah? Okay, so Mariah will be our secretary. Thank you so much, Mariah. Treasurer? No, we're not dealing with a lot of money. It's like $900. It's not. It's okay. Okay. No. Okay. We didn't have a treasurer last, but you know, it's so easy. It was just easy to do. So we will leave the position open for anybody who knocks down my door for it in the future. Okay. That's it for the board elections. Okay. Richard, now everybody's like, get off the stage, give it to Richard.
Rachel, I just want to point out all the work you do and how
Okay, Richard.
Right. That's very, very impressive. Thank you. Yes, Tim and I go back a long way. Well, after all that, I'm not sure what I can say to impress you. But I was a city council representative for this district for, I guess, for 4.5 years. And then I left really suddenly because of COVID, and the pandemic was really hard on our businesses. When I got reelected in April 21, I thought that people were going to get vaccinated and life would get back to normal, but it didn't happen. And our restaurant part of our business is my part. And my wife, Patricia, runs all the retail, but the restaurant parts were really struggling. We weren't sure if we could reopen again, and we were able to get them open, but I had to leave council because this was too much to do everything at once. But having said that, there are some things that I know, because I guess I've been elected to council 4 times. I tell everybody I have a master's degree in city council, and as Tim knows, yeah, I know. And there's some things that you probably are aware of, and don't need me to tell you that. But there's a lot of challenges with Colorado Springs, and as you know, we're the fastest growing city in the state. Fastest growing county in the state. We are going to grow to probably about 750,000 people by maybe 2050, 2045, 2050. The county is going to be 1 million. And then you have about 20 to 25 million tourists that we attract to come here every year. Most of them in their cars, by the way. It's not like people, fly in and then just have a great city to walk around. They drive, and so the issues of traffic and the other issues that maybe you're thinking about, the ADUs, all that is complicated because of the nature of our growth. And I always tell people, if we had a major recession, we would stop growing, or maybe a wildfire that wiped out the whole mountain backdrop, getting tourists, or mandatory birth control because we have a high birth rate over death rate. We specialize in bringing younger people here through the military that have more babies. So 2,000 to 3,000 people a year just by birth rate over death rate. And we attract people that want to retire here, especially retired military. So it's just a challenge, and but your part of town is so special, and I have a real affection for it because my first apartment was at Monument Weber. It was $65 a month, Across the street, a block up, was Ertl's drugstore, where they never really carded people because, the people that worked there were older, and they sold liquor because it was during the Prohibition that people could line up at drugstores and get a shot of liquor. So it was one of the first places to actually get a liquor license, in Babe's Market across the street. And I don't know if Tim's aware of it, but that Centennial Reproduction building there that was the first Piggly Wiggly store in the United States, first supermarket.
Wow.
Yeah. So you see the sign that I can't remember what it says, like 18 something, but 19, I can't remember, but it's nice story. 1901. Oh, there you go. Yeah. But having said that, it is a really special neighborhood, and it's great that you have done what you've done. I mean, I just can't compliment you enough, because otherwise, who knows what could have happened or would have happened here. I don't think you will have problems getting historic designation, but there'll be pressure. And there'll be pressure for, with the ADU situation. When I was on council, we didn't really allow them. We would allow them in certain neighborhoods, but the fact is, I think it's, Tim, this more than I do, but something like 65-70% of our neighborhoods are single family.
Yes.
And many of them, don't want anybody else moving in there. And especially in historic neighborhoods, where they don't want a building on the lot, because the lot could be big enough to have 2 or 3 buildings. Nobody wants a duplex, or a triplex in their neighborhood, in their block. And then you have to add short-term rentals to the mix. So again, when I was on council, we restricted them some. We were only going to issue 2,500 licenses and let it go up a small amount every year. And then we said that they had to be owner occupied if there was one within 500 feet of you. But the Colorado Supreme Court overturned that. So again, valuable homes could be for, housing for people. But what's brewing that I think is exciting for this neighborhood, if things go well, is what's happening with Creek COS and Monument Creek. And I don't know if is anybody aware of that? And you can stream it. But it's Lida Hill, the Kissing Camels, Garden of Gods Country Club, and heir to the Hunt family fortune of ketchup and oil. She decided after the pandemic to really come back to Colorado Springs. She was I shouldn't say this, she was with another woman who actually was quite a well-known park director for the city. And but having said that, she was lonely in Dallas, and she realized this is where she wanted to be, and this is where her friends were. So she has put together a team with one of the people is Pam Shockley, who was the chancellor at UCCS. Another one was Jan Martin, was a city council person for 2 terms and president pro tem. And they put together this Creek COS, and it's a very ambitious program. They're going to take from Woodman Road all the way down to the confluence of Fountain and Monument Creeks, and then over to the Shooks Run Trail is where they really hope all this will connect, and they're going to hopefully put together tens of millions of dollars in projects. And there were some opportunities that were coming up for them. Now, the projects that they're talking about are ones that really create, a natural environment that Monument Creek already is, but make it more so. The steep embankments, and one of the examples is you can see what happened at Cashlapudra at the end there when the city stormwater and utilities put that together. But they would like to get people in the water and kayak possibly. Maybe inner tubes, possibly fishing. I'm not sure about swimming or not, but that may come about. And I don't know if you've ever been to the by the REI building in Denver, but that area there is just completely transformed. But it was really, just a horrible, horrible example of terrible urban planning where Cherry Creek and the South Platte connected, and they completely cleaned it up, and it's the most expensive real estate in Denver. To get an apartment near there, you spend the most per square foot. But they were inspired by that. They met with the Denver Greenway Foundation, the Denver Greenway Foundation people, the shoemakers. There's a father and son that were involved, and they got Denver Urban Drainage and lots of other partners together. And they really have done a lot of cleaning up. And the other piece that they've done so well in Denver and the North Front Range is they've created a whole network of trails where you don't have to be on the roads. So in Denver, you can ride your bike for 70 miles without crossing traffic, depending on where you're going. They took all these creek areas and areas where they could to create, places for people to be pedestrians, and they didn't have to worry about traffic. And bike lanes are great, and I'm not, I'm certainly not one to say that they shouldn't exist, but sometimes they exist where they shouldn't be. And we, back in my old council days, my first go around, we were well intended. We put together what we called complete streets. And whenever you changed a street, you widened it, or you repaved it or rerouted or whatever you did, you always had to put a bike lane and a sidewalk in. But now we have, bike lanes to horrible, horrible traffic. The Uinta Bridge, I mean, that's a great example. I mean, you can take your life in your hands that you would know about. But this creek COS really may be a great opportunity for this neighborhood too. Because if they can connect Shooks Run over and get through Nevada and get through the homeless areas and that whole creek walk area at South, behind the natural grocers at Cheyenne Creek has become a great, kind of a little recreation area. But if they can connect it all, the Popsicle Bridge and the Shooks Run and then go up through the Santa Fe Trail, where Cottonwood Creek Trail goes into it, and Sand Creek Trail, I think, goes into it. I know the Rock Island Line does, although you have to cross a couple streets, but maybe even more as time goes on. And that you would hope to have some of that great opportunity that they put together in Denver. Boulder, Fort Collins is another great one. They really did a good job with all that. Get people out of their cars and create, instead of turning our backs to these stream areas where, it's garbage and pollution and all that, embrace it, bring it back to life. And it's a challenge here. It really is, because, I mean, you really couldn't have scripted a worse place to build so many impervious surfaces and have the one really ultimate receptacle be Fountain Creek. Because our soil is highly erodible. It's sandstone, it's bare shale. If you walk from here down to the confluence of Fountain Creek and the Arkansas River, one Grand Canyon, mini Grand Canyon after another, you watch this big brown Fountain Creek going into the clear Arkansas River. And by the way, the people down there are really upset at us for lots of good reasons. And I've been really involved in that for decades. My first week on city council, 1999, was I think it was 5 inches of rain in 48 hours. People were overwhelmed. They had no choice but to dump water into drains in their houses because their basements were flooding. And people that lived at the end of the line had sewage gushing out of their toilets and out of their shower heads. And there's about 200 homes that were destroyed, all areas that I knew and loved, Cheyenne Canyon, the West Side. We had to dump close to 100 million gallons of raw sewage into Fountain Creek. And I was this naive, council person. I just gotten elected. I'm going to go down to Lahana and Rocky Ford and tell them we're going to make this okay. And they were so angry for a really good reason. And then lots of years of decades of neglect. So it started, and tell me if I'm rambling on too much, but it started with we had a 1 cent sales tax that was taken away by the council after we had our own Tabor passed before Doug Bruce did it statewide. And that was for capital improvements. And 1 cent these days is, it's $125 million, just the city alone. And so think about that backlog. We had no stormwater enterprise, one of the few cities in the country that didn't. We neglected all this. We, as a council, as my council, was a 5-4 vote in 2000. I think it was in 2005, passed a stormwater enterprise just by council vote. And then Doug Bruce was out there with his stop the rain tax, and the next council took it away. Mayor Bach, didn't embrace it, himself. There was a regional stormwater authority that we had lots of support. I worked, many hours trying to get that voted on by the people, and of course, Bach opposed it at the last minute, failed. So it was really John Suthers who had the guts, and I was part of it. I was on council, but being who I was, I couldn't lead those kind of efforts. It's Richard Skorman, that Texan friend, liberal, from downtown. But John Suthers stuck his neck out, and we finally have it. But meanwhile, there was an EPA lawsuit, millions of dollars. It was just unnecessary, and we were doing the right thing because the EPA lawsuit came after we passed the stormwater enterprise. But having said that, what if we could, create this system of trails, of waterways? What if we could plant in these waterways more trees, more shade trees, more habitat, more places, for the water to filter and get clean, wetland species. And so that's been a real passion of mine. Because the other issue we have here is that we have an urban canopy deficit. So I was on council as president. I was able to get a CC class to do a study. They spent 2 blocks, and they studied our heat island effect. And they determined that we were about 2.5 degrees hotter than other Front Range cities. And then you have the southeast that's 6 to 8 degrees hotter than the rest of the city, with a life expectancy of 16 years less than the rest of the city. That's probably one factor. But unfortunately, Palmer and a lot of the founders who had great intentions planted the wrong kind of trees. So Dutch elms, now there's a tussock moth. There's the emerald ash borer. We have whole neighborhoods like Rustic Hills and that area that's all ash trees that are going to probably go. And so shade is a huge issue. So what you do in this neighborhood, I think, is really critical. The utilities, when I left in 21, they were talking about 75% of all homes and buildings will have air conditioners in Colorado Springs in their service territory. And I came here in 1970, and nobody had air conditioners. We had a fan in the window, but we are going to get hotter. That's our climate change curse. And we also have a built environment that really is just not good for this particular problem. We have so many heat absorbing surfaces. Asphalt everywhere, and I'm not blaming you, Tim, because I don't know that you were a part of it, but that planning department. Go ahead and blame me. But the planning department, we got to build for the cars. We got to have, and God forbid that we would recommend that we have lighter colored, rooftops or shade over parking lots. But lo and behold, we built a city that's just a heat island generator. And air conditioning is the wrong kind. It's this kind that pours heat into the environment, makes it even worse. It's not that utilities is not done a good job incenting heat pumps, which are more expensive. In the long run, they really are. They save everybody money and they save a lot of this extra heat. But that's why your neighborhood's just critical. And what you can do to keep it historic, to help with tree plantings, to do things to not have it be taken over by traffic. You know, downtown, they're talking about up to 5,000 residential units total over the next 2 years. But it's more in that southeast corridor. You know, it's at Lowell School area. And up here, you're not going to have the big apartment buildings and all that.
Well, we just had a meeting with the downtown partnership about that whole Lowell area, and just drive it and see there's no green space.
I know.
There's none, and that's detrimental for everybody and everything.
Yeah.
And yet we don't seem to have a zoning law or whatever to enforce creating more green space, which is what we need. And there's none down there. At least we should be very thankful for the amount of green space.
No, you have a lot. Now that's where Shook's Run would really come in.
Yes.
Over there by Concrete Couch, and especially if you could, clean up that whole area in there. And so that, yeah, but you're right. But it is it's more of that pedestrian, the person that wants to not have 2 cars necessarily in a big home. And I think it's a good thing, really. I think a 27-story, apartment complex is a terrible thing. And if I was on council, I would have voted against it. But to me, it's the mountain backdrop that we all love. What's that?
Doesn't even fit with the character.
No, nothing at all. And I couldn't believe that council's kind of opening up the door for that. But having said that, it's just I think that what you can do here makes a big difference. It really does. And so thank you for doing what you do. And by the way, you let us our Richard's Rubbish Roundup have a table at your event, the skating event. And
It's fun.
yeah, and we have a little group that we run, Patricia and I run through Poor Richards. It is a nonprofit. And 20, 30, sometimes 40 people a week who go out and pick up garbage, and mostly around the homeless camps and Monument Creek and America the Beautiful and up the Midland Trail and all that, but other places. And if you find that there's a garbage problem in your area, we're here to help. So call us. We can make it. We may not, you may not need 30 of us there for 2 hours, but we can outfit you with gloves, and we have a place to dispose of the needles, if there, happens to be, or whatever it is that, that will keep you safe. We dispose of all the garbage, and we've done this for lots of other neighborhood groups too. It's just unbelievable the amount of garbage that's out there. You just can't. I mean, we've collected 65,000 pounds. We haven't even been active for a year. Over 1,200 needles. And a lot of it's other people's garbage, by the way. It's garbage from the apartments along the Blessing, Griffiths Blessing apartments. Nobody locks their dumpsters, and there's very few places for even the homeless to put their garbage. So that's the thing I keep pounding the table. It's like the city spends all this money on the back end to take care of all that. They could do more on the front end. But anyhow, that's my speech, and I'm happy to answer questions. What's that? What am I working on?
Working on that.
Yeah, so I want Richard's Rubbish Roundup to turn into a group that really creates these wetlands out of the waterways. There's 54 tributaries to Fountain Creek, major ones. You wouldn't think that, but there is. So that's my passion. Patricia and I still have to work, and 72, and I'm not sure, we can transition out. We may, by the way, if anybody here is looking to buy a complicated business, we're open to it. But we really care about people that work for us and our regular customers, and we're going to celebrate the 50th anniversary this year.
Got $1, take it or leave it.
That's good. So, I mean, you had so many people wanting to be on your board, I figured somebody would want to.
Saunders on a work.
No, you do. I wish I lived here. I really, I don't have to. I can, yeah. Well, I'm really happy to help though, if I can in any way, because sometimes it just, helps to have another voice.
Trees on Wasatch, they cut all of them down, we put out ones for them, they're gone.
Yeah, I know. I mean, there was the North End's Woodlands group that was planting, but if you and then, wanted to get something like that together, we as our nonprofit could really try to help you with that. Because that's pretty good.
Down here, we do a fundraiser, so they'll come and plant trees for you. Ruben does it.
Mhm.
Just being a front for those guys that drive at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Every once in a while, you just see a bunch of trees that are gone because.
Yeah, somebody's plowing through, guy.
And I wish the city had a better forestry, plan. But I grew up here and I moved away and lived in Illinois and, boy, the forestry out in Illinois, after living out there and then coming back, I was like.
It's really hard, and it's always been so underfunded.
Yeah.
But now it's part of public works, which makes it, maybe have a little more teeth, but as part of the park department was just seriously underfunded for decades. I left.
But now trees are being regarded as municipal infrastructure,
Oh, good. They should.
like a sidewalk
Uh-huh.
in a park.
No, they should.
Yeah,
They
it should have gone in the middle.
Yeah. But the part is that we get 75% of our fresh water from the Colorado River Basin. And it won't be available for major landscaping like it is today. I think it's still around 40%, 35 or 40% of our fresh water use goes for landscaping. So the notion of like Hickenlooper planted, I think it was 250,000 trees in Denver when he was the mayor, and huge, numbers of volunteers. But I'm just not sure that's going to be in the cards for us as a city, because I don't think we're going to have the water to do it. The water, we'll have plenty of water for drinking and commercial, but for landscaping, maybe not as much. Although, possibly for trees, I hope so. Because I think that's the answer. It really is. One thing, it helps with all erosion and everything else that I was talking about.
And increase.
Yeah, sure.
So the Centennial, they put a whole bunch of trees down Wasatch, Nevada.
Yeah.
And so they did do a big planting. And then after that, Colorado College and our neighborhood did about 10 or 12 trees right in front of the school on Willamette, between Wasatch and Weber.
Mhm.
You put a whole bunch of trees in there.
Yeah.
And it's a project.
No, it's a lot more work. It's a lot more expensive than you think. And
Right now it is.
a lot. I really was grateful for that North End Woodlands group doing all of
Yeah,
that.
they did all that. We kind of
Yeah.
got some tips from them.
Yeah.
We did, a Historic Neighborhoods Partnership did get a presentation from Chris Liebert on the,
Oh, good to us. Oh, good.
we have not introduced it too much to the neighborhood because it seems like it's still very far off. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, they got a $700,000 grant
Okay,
from the Army Corps of Engineers. And before Trump got elected, it was possible that between that and the work that the city was going to do up at Templeton Gap, where there's been huge flooding problems, that there would be significant money for the city of Colorado Springs. Luckily, we're part of a district that has Albuquerque and El Paso for the Army Corps of Engineers. And they've given a lot of money to Albuquerque and El Paso, but they've given zip to Colorado Springs. And by the way, guess what the second most studied watershed in the country is? The Fountain Creek watershed.
wow.
You wouldn't think that, but it's just, and part of it is this group that I was a part of and helped found the Fountain Creek Watershed Flood Control and Greenway District. But so much effort because of all the military that's been here as well. And yet not much money spent. So $1.2 billion was originally talked about possibly being available for for those projects, for the Creek COS and for the Templeton Gap floodplain and maybe for the Shooks Run areas, areas around downtown Monument and Fountain Creek. Now, with Trump, all bets are off. And, I'm not here to make a speech about, who we voted for, who you voted for, but I think that those are the kind of things that are going to get major cuts. It's not necessarily going to be there down the road unless, things change in different ways. So anyhow, don't vote for me. I'm not running for anything anymore. I'm running from.
Yeah.
I'm getting too old. Hopefully you'll have a good council member. There's actually several good people running for District 3. And that
Do you have any recommendations?
goes up to, I probably shouldn't because they all want my endorsement, but I like Brandy Williams. She was she and I spent a lot of time together around the Waldo and Black Forest fires. She was on council there. Very knowledgeable. She's an engineer. She was the engineer for the city of Fountain. She's really involved in all the things that I was just talking about, and she's reasonable. I think you will like her. There's a guy named Rick Gillett that a lot of other people like. The whole group, Susan Pattee and the whole group with the union printers, Kathy Lou, they all like him. And he would be reasonable too. And there's a retired park board member that I think might be pretty good. It's mostly good choices for District 3, really. Hopefully, and then you need to get in front of them.
Well, we don't have a problem with that.
No, that's great. I'm sorry I wasn't there for you much when I was on council because you started a little bit later, but
We did.
yeah. But it would have been more.
It would have been wonderful.
Yeah, that's right. And they're going to be doing these pedestrian improvements on Tejon Street. They're going to widen the sidewalks, and that's going to come all the way down to Boulder. So that'll be
And Palmer High School.
yeah.
Amazing.
It's going to be yeah. So yeah, let's see. I think it's very optimistic. So thank you for putting in this work. You don't have to. So I appreciate it. I missed you when you left. Yeah.
So he's mine. Okay. No, his love for historic properties and it's just a match made in heaven, Historic Uptown and Tim Scanlon. So I'm very fortunate to have him help us, and he has helped us tremendously. So it's all yours.
Well, it's my pleasure. I'm now retired, so I get to do what I like. I don't have to work for anybody else. And it's wonderful, doing the labor of love. But I'm going to talk to you tonight about one of the aspects of historic preservation available to property owners. I'm going to talk about the Colorado income tax credits for rehabilitation, historic rehabilitation. Hey.
Tell us about that. All those areas that were red in my picture, which a good number of you guys, if not all of them, are in the Weber Wasatch Historic District. This should be your presentation, because this is what this is all about, is bringing money into the city from the, to rehabilitate your properties.
And the tax credits are tangible. Historic preservation is a lot of feel good motivations, but this is actually money you can put into your pocket, and it helps benefit the historic buildings in our town. So the state has had a rehabilitation tax credit for historic properties since about 1990. From about 1995 to 2009, the city did run the rehabilitation tax credit program. And it deals with designated buildings in the national, state, or local designation. This is a description of the commercial aspect of the rehabilitation tax credits. This is somewhat new. This is applicable to municipally owned properties or private nonprofit properties that are leased. And so this, the best example of this would be an old vacant school building. I wouldn't be surprised if Helen Hunt School investigated these rehabilitation tax credits on a commercial basis, because that building is going to be developed into rental apartments and a cafe and some other things. So there's revenue producing opportunities for that. I'm going to actually, though, go to the rehabilitation for residential, because I think that's most applicable. Most people own their properties. You have to be designated as historic, and that's part of what we're working on with the Parkside District. But some of the others live in the Weber-Wasatch Historic District. My friend Lynn happens to live in the Weber-Wasatch District, so this would be available to her if she needed to do work on her house. There are qualifications associated with this. They've been running this for quite some time. It's run out of this History Colorado, the State Historic Preservation Officer. And the credit amounts to 20% of the expenditures. So by way of example, if you have a $100,000 project, you get a $20,000 tax credit. Right now, you amortize that on your state income taxes. So you have 10 years to use it all up. That's going to change in 2007. In 2007, if you finish a project, and let's say that you have a $10,000 tax credit coming to you, and your taxes for that a year that you close the project is only $1,000, they will cut you a check for $9,000.
And that's 2027, you said?
2027. So you will actually get a refund. Now, right now, nonprofits can sell their tax credits. There is a small market for nonprofits to do this. They sell their tax credits at a discount. So there's a way of generating money for nonprofits, but this is a better setup. One thing I really want to point out before anybody does any historic preservation tax credit work: photographs, documenting the conditions. Take lots of photographs if you're going to. Photographs are necessary to determine that if you have historic fabric, it's being preserved. This is a historic rehabilitation program. So if you have historic fabric, you're supposed to preserve it to the greatest extent possible, within reason. They don't go overboard in terms of that. Let's see, I'll just keep breezing through. All of this is going to be on the website. So if you need to go back to refer to it, this will be available to you. So what is rehabilitation? It's work on an existing building, and the building needs to be used for residential purposes. So many people in the Weber-Wasatch District have historic garages. Historic rehabilitation tax credit won't work for garages. It only works. Now, if you were going to convert your garage to a residence, now that could qualify. But it has to be a residential building. All work must meet the Secretary of the Interior standards. This is the baseline for design review standards, and most people associated with historic preservation know immediately what these are and know how to meet these standards. Like I said, the program is administered by History Colorado. Sarah Koppel is a staff person that is amazingly efficient at what she does. The state has 2 individuals that issue the tax credits throughout the state. And I think she does a terrific job being able to be as professional as she is. I one time sent her an email asking clarification on a question on a Saturday, and she answered in 5 minutes. You know, now I've worked Saturdays. I used to work for the city, and I've worked Saturdays. When I was working for for the city, I didn't answer emails, but she's a thorough professional. So, okay, what kind of work is eligible? It's about anything you can think of. Now it has to be permanently affixed. An example of that is if you were putting carpet in. And your house was originally built with carpet and it should have carpet. If you tack it down, that's not regarded as permanent because you can just pull up the carpet from the tacks and, you know, it's not a permanent fix. You have to glue the carpet for it to be eligible for tax credits. A lot of people are uncomfortable with gluing carpets, but let's see. Mariah, she went through this process. She focused on windows. Historic windows are important. Many people think, oh, we can just go to Champion Windows and get a cheap set of windows and they'll be great. Well, they're great for 3 or 4 or 5 years, but they don't last. So you want to, the watchword is you maintain your property. You repair when necessary, or you repair as needed and you replace when necessary. So maintenance, then repair, then replacement. New construction, complementing the existing structure. An example of that is putting in a bathroom on the 2nd floor, because you may not have a bathroom, or the bathroom you have may have been put in a small closet and you want to expand that. So that's an example of new construction that complements the existing structure. What isn't covered? Lots of stuff. Most fees, appraisals, permit fees, accounting fees. It doesn't cover paving. It doesn't cover landscaping. Lawn watering, it doesn't cover solar panels or heat pumps. Those are regarded as temporary. They don't last longer than 5 years, in their opinion. You can't build a new addition or accessory buildings. You can't buy furnishings. You can't buy draperies because that's not permanently affixed. Cabinets in the kitchen are, however, permanently affixed. One of the changes they have made since I was running the program was now they include excavation. It used to be if people had foundation troubles for the tax credit program, we could pay for the entire project except for the excavation, uncovering the foundation and putting it back. Now that's included. And that was changed back when I was working. I'll provide an example of that. So this program was reauthorized just last June. They're very interested in it. They want to keep making it better and more available and more useful to property owners. They are going to put together a commercial rehab pool that will help. Right now, the commercial aspect of the tax credits is very difficult to reserve your funds. They don't have enough money. And so this is hopefully going to address that. Okay. Let's see here. Case study. I'm going to get you out of here by 7:30, I promise. I'm going to do a case study of a project that I did. This was a single-story craftsman bungalow, had a full width porch, really pretty house, stucco exterior. It was a contributing structure in the National Register Historic District, and the owner-occupant wanted basically to replace the furnace. And they thought, well, so long as I'm putting in an HVAC system, I'll get an AC system. So that was going to be their project, and it amounted to basically $17,000. These are the steps you go through. There's a Part 1 reservation. You have to do the application form that hasn't changed in 30 years. There is a fee of $250. You have to discuss the work and identify historic fabric and how you're going to preserve it to the greatest extent possible. The State Preservation Office then notifies you that we've received your and issued your preliminary approval. That is basically a commitment. If you do the work as promised, you will get the tax credits. At this point, after the notification, you go ahead and do the work. Then to close out, once again, you have an application form. You may have more fees. You have to provide a schedule of the costs of qualified and non-qualified. Non-qualified would be paving and landscaping. Qualified would be repairing the foundation. Have photographs of completed work. So now you have before and after photographs. And then the State Historic Preservation Office will review and create the award. Okay, this was the projected work. Remove a cast iron furnace, get a new gas furnace, install air conditioning with an exterior compressor. Estimated cost 17 grand, and this would have been the tax credits. Now, once they got into the project, they decided, we have the opportunity to do more work, that we have money to afford to do it. And if we could get tax credits, we kind of amend the project. So the things in bold were items that did not receive preliminary approval. They did not receive a commitment that these would be regarded as qualified costs, but they usually are. So while they were doing it, they figured a humidifier was a good idea to go with their AC and their gas furnace. The electric was the most popular aspect of the tax credits when I was running it. You don't want to preserve knob and tube wiring. They wanted to do the wood floors, and so they had taken pictures of the wood floors before they started. So it was a real easy thing to say the wood floors are historic fabric. This was the condition they were in. This was the treatment that they did. This is the end result photograph. So it was very easy to include that. Gutters, these are permanently affixed. The water line. This was they in the process of working, their water line started to have problems, and so they said, can we do this? And my first reaction was, we can pay for the work except for the excavation. Fortunately, this was in about 2009, and they had changed the law. So excavation associated with water and sewer lines did count. So we didn't have to break out the costs from the water and sewer lines. This was the result. They ended up spending $25,433. They paid $500 in fees. Now the city got those fees, and because we were doing the review and the work, those fees helped to pay for sending the preservation board to conferences, for retaining expert consultants when the board needed advice on certain things. So the city get to keep the fees. The tax credit came out to a little over $5,000. You can see how this started. They actually started the work before they applied, and this is possible. It's now, I think in 2006, it's shut down to 12 months. You can look back 12 months instead of 2 years, but they were able to get their preliminary approval done in June, and in February they got their final approval. And I issued them the certificates, and because the application was submitted in 2008, that meant the project was done in 2008. So when we did the certificates and issued them, they were able to use their final approval tax credits on their 2008 taxes. So that is a quick run through, but I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody might have.
Roofs are now covered.
Roofs are now covered.
So everybody,
Reshingling your roof counts.
remember this, everyone, roofs are, and none of this is 2008. This is probably easily 3x the price now. We're talking big money. So just be real cognizant of that. These are things you're gonna do no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So you might as well get money for it.
Yeah. When you build a new house, generally, the median age in which you have to start doing repairs is 17 years of age. Half more, half less. But 17 is a break point when you start having to do repairs, not maintenance, not operation, but repairs. And then as he gets older, of course, you then start to get into major repairs. It seems like everybody needs a new roof. The other thing, we had identified that you needed to be designated on the National Register, the State Register, locally zoned. That designation has to occur before your project ends. It used to be you had to have that designation before it began. But now it's by the time it ends, so that the property owners in the Parkside district that we're trying to get overlay zoned, it's very likely we will have that done by the summer. And so if individuals were to start on their rehab right now, I encourage you to contact the state first, because you're going to end up dealing with them anyway. But take lots of pictures. But we do have an individual in Parkside that intends to access these tax credits and is anxious to begin work. And so hopefully we can provide them with a tangible benefit. Yes,
Exterior painting,
exterior painting does qualify. It used to be only if it were a historic scheme. But now if it's rehab, if it's not a matter of your paint is just fine, you don't like the color, that's one thing. But if the paint needs to be redone, that's another. And it used to be that it had to be a historic paint scheme. Here in Colorado Springs, we were a little different the way I ran it. I thought paint was not a permanent alteration. You can always paint over paint. And you were asking for troubles by telling people that you have to select from this particular paint palette. But fortunately, that issue is now gone. Yes, ma'am.
so on my house, it is the cement shingle siding, that horrible stuff. And underneath, you can tell it's on the cedar siding. So where does that fall in that?
Well, I would encourage you, if you're serious, first get somebody who is familiar with both stucco and wood shingles and have them expose a portion to see what the actual construction is and the quality of the shingles behind. Most stucco or those concrete shingles were just applied over. They didn't take anything off. They just applied it over. So quite often, those shingles are in good shape. And if not, you can replace the individual shingles that need repair. But that would be the kind of thing that the removal of the concrete shingles and the repair and any type of caulking that you need to do would be covered as this project. Has to be more than $5,000. I don't think that'd be a problem.
So, but there are certain materials that just won't be covered, like it would have to be wooden shingles. You couldn't just put plastic over it.
It has to be historically appropriate. So if you had wood shingles, you would want to piece in wood shingles rather than try to replace it with a different material or piece in a variety of materials.
And stucco. I mean, if it didn't have stucco, they're not stucco.
Yeah, you shouldn't stucco a building if it hasn't already been stuccoed. Many buildings were built stucco, particularly in Parkside. Those are stucco buildings, and that's fine.
Wouldn't the house have wood shingles underneath? Let's say the sleeping porch, which is now a bedroom, does not have shingles. Would it include doing
Shingling that to make it a consistent rehab? Yeah, that would be covered. Yes.
Yeah, hi, thank you for this presentation. For houses to qualify for these funds, is it a district that is designated as a historical district, or is that done individually for buildings? How does that work?
Wait, it can be an entire neighborhood.
Okay.
For instance, the Weber Wasatch District is an entire neighborhood. Then there are individual properties, individual homes. And there's, I think, Well, we have 9 individual. I'm stumping Cheryl. We have 9 National Register landmarks in Historic Uptown.
Roughly,
Roughly, okay.
because most of ours are districts.
Right, yeah,
His house is in the district.
Oh, in the.
Oh, you're totally in Weber
Oh,
Wasatch.
okay, okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
that makes that easy.
Tim, when I gave him the flyer.
That makes that easy. Yes, sir.
Is, most of this information, can it be found at, is it History Colorado?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Is it .com, .org,
Historycolorado.gov.
.gov?
And they have a good search engine on their homepage, and just put in tax credits, and that will take you to where you need to go. They have a lot of written information. They have the application forms on there, and like I said, Sarah Koppel is a terrific staffer. Yes, ma'am.
Richard's talk and some of the other people here, including you, about trees and their importance, and certainly their historic importance in Colorado Springs. Don't you think it's a little short-sighted that they don't include any landscaping?
Well, remember, this is historic rehabilitation of buildings. Now, I can imagine a circumstance in which state entities would have other programs, associated with natural features or parks or open spaces, going at it from a different direction. But History Colorado is mostly focused on buildings. They will recognize historic landscapes, but once again, those have to be designated. And I've never been involved in trying to get a National Register designation for a landscape. It is done, but I've never done it. Yes, Cheryl.
So one thing to note, when you go to the tax credit site, it's gonna pop up a dialogue that says they're out of money. It's always commercial.
It's the commercial one.
Move
That
forward.
first slide that I did is commercial. So just click OK, and then you can get the information you're interested in.
It's like, if you're going there with a commercial building, good luck. But they always have money for residential. Could you please tell them how this funding is occurring? Some of it, is it general fund and?
It is the state general fund has allocated or appropriated this money up to a certain amount. They cap the commercial, but they don't cap the residential. That's because the commercial many times are involved in multi-million-dollar projects, converting an old school to an apartment building. And whereas when we're dealing with rehabilitation of individual buildings like in Weber Wasatch, the impact on the budget is minimal. When you're talking about, the amount of money necessary to spend $25,000, you're generating state sales tax, you're generating local sales tax, you're also paying for a lot of labor which stays in the community. That creates a multiplier for your tax dollar. If you're paying for new construction, much of new construction goes for materials, glass, aluminum, steel, and those aren't produced locally. They're not even regionally. That's a national market. Whereas when you're dealing with rehabilitation, much of what you pay for is labor, and you're dealing with craftsmen and not buying so many materials. So you have a more beneficial effect upon the income tax receipts of the state. Smarter people than I have looked at it, but they've decided that in terms of residential, the impact on the budget really isn't significant enough to cap it, which I think is great. Okay, any other questions? Yes, Dan?
It does this, and they have a historic designation. Does it offer any protection to the property? I've lived here since the 50s.
Yeah.
So I can't even talk about the number of historic buildings I've seen go away.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel that they're gunning for our neighborhood and would love to level it and put up, 1970 architecture. And so if you have gotten this credit and then somebody comes in and gets something, can they just tear it down a month later?
This is the issue of local protection. The National Register does not protect you. The state register does not protect you. You can use your private money to knock down any historic property without any impedance. I'm not gonna raise Eric's blood pressure, but if like what's Grace Episcopal is listed in the National Register. If the congregation of Grace Episcopal decided they wanted to knock it down and build a new church, there's nothing in the National Register that would stop it. Nothing in the state register that would stop it. Locally, local designation does involve a degree of protection, but it is very schizophrenic. If you're listed in the National Register and locally zoned, like they are up in the North End. Also, the Cascade Park Apartments, 624 North Cascade, that's locally zoned. You can have a certain degree of protection. If you're locally zoned in the National Register, the board can actually deny the issuance of a building permit. It hasn't happened in 16 years, but that authority is there. If you're not listed in the National Register, you are overlay zoned, but you're not listed in the National Register, the city can suspend the issuance of a desired permit for up to 90 days. So if you wanted to get a demolition permit, the city could stop you for 90 days, hopefully to examine alternatives. But if you're intent on demolishing your property, the city won't stop you. The North End National Register District is also locally overlay zoned, and that is a little different, but that's kind of a unique circumstance.
So, on my property, there was a smaller cottage that was first erected in like 1895, I believe, and then the main house was built in 1897. Does the small cottage and can it, I guess, like this be used towards rehab on that?
It's being used as a residence.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. You can use any contributing historic property, so long as it's being used as a residence. You can use this program.
Okay.
You had a question? Somebody else? I thought I saw a hand. Oh well. In any case, I encourage you to investigate this. If it's useful, you can always get a hold of me.
We have a credit page on our website.
Does it have Sarah's name and number?
It does.
Okay.
And it also has info@historicuptown.org. You can email us. We can guide you through some of this.
So I'd be happy to share my knowledge with anybody who's interested. Yeah. Well, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you, Tim.
It's my pleasure. I just love a captive audience. I'm gonna squeeze past you.
There's no board elections. Are you interested?
5 times?
I have another meeting. I have